Somatic carpool. Let's. That was great. Good. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Emily Conrad was part of the ISMETA, like with the beginning.
She was part of the. I think in 80. I think it was in early 80s, like 84, 80, something like that. 84, I think. Because the 30th anniversary was 84. Well, something in that area, and I think that came out of Esalen,
yes,
this place in California where they were. That was a place for very innovative new technique for massage and movement and well-being.
Esalen, I know that Stanislav Grof was.
He was part of it also.
He was living there. Yeah.
You lost
Sorry, I just lost this.
This little.
This little foam.
Oh, it's there. Yeah.
So, and okay, this idea of ISMETA was coming from Esalen, you mean?
No, but at the time there was a lot of new techniques and understanding of therapy.
Yeah.
That's also where Arnold Milden and a process and on the west coast in America there was a lot of new things.
Yes.
It was really birthing of new understanding, and it was very
all these hippies and psychedelics and all these.
Yes. So there was a huge opening in how we could. I think it was a counterpoint from a European way of very intellectualized. Therapeutic psychology,
like coming from
Freud
and analysis. It was changing slowly.
Mm-hmm. And there was Freud, but after there was Jung, Jung and the archetype and all these things. So they were looking for many other ways to do therapy, and so that's also, I think, the psychedelic really was a huge. That's also how. Stanislav Grof and the holotropic breathing work started to emerge also. Like it came out of psychedelic, but without psychedelic, so just with movement and breath. And there was also many people going to study, like Embodiment British Current. She went to Japan to study with master people there. And then when she went back to America, that's how she started to develop BMC, body mind centering.
She was studying Aikido in Japan or something like.
I don't think she studied, maybe Aikido or maybe other, but she studied with Japanese, masters.
Zen masters or something like this, like shiatsu or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that?
And she was already like. I think an occupational therapist or something. So she was, she worked with children and stuff. And but she brought, all those people. They brought something from outside, and they were exploring and inventing and innovating. Lots of new things, and so what was there already was the art therapy was there, because after the war, like dance therapy, for instance, really came out of. People like Mayan Chase working with veterans from the World War II that were traumatized with PTSD and all this, and she brought dance and movement, but mainly more dance as a way to alleviate the trauma and to start to work with movement and with creative therapy and art therapy. So that was already there for a few decades, and not so recognized yet, but still you could have like art therapists or dance therapists working in a hospital, usually for free. And so I think from the 70s, with SLN and all these new, the Rolfing movement, Ida Rolf, that were very different than physiotherapy. The method was a different understanding, was very lot of innovation, and they didn't have any professional recognition, and needed to have some kind of organization to legally be practitioners. Like for instance, in America, in some states, you're not allowed to touch.
Yeah.
So ISMETA was created for those people that were not dancers or dance therapists or creative art therapists, but were working with movement and with touch, and like Traeger also, the Traeger method didn't, it's not massage per se, and it's not shiatsu. So shiatsu, I think they are in the massage therapy world. They were, like several massage technique like that were, categorized, but certain things like I think like Rolfing and Rolf movement.
Yeah.
It's not Rolf movement is not a massage.
Yeah.
So they had to create that association for the people working with touch and working more in a way in the therapeutic field than movement.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the word therapy was really added to somatic movement.
Yeah. So would you say it again? It's like they were working more with therapeutic field, therapeutic field than movement?
No, they were because they used touch.
Yeah.
And touch as a therapeutic tool. That's why they had to put the word therapy. Like when the Traeger or the many approaches with touch that may involve movement or may not involve movement, but are somatically informed. They are usually, they're not exercise because you need a practitioner doing it.
Yes.
So they are more in the field of therapy. You go to see a practitioners for that, and let's say the best way to describe that would be, when you go to see a Rolfer, you go to see someone who is going to work on your tissues and your fascias and your whole structure.
Yeah.
But in a therapeutic way. It's not going to do movement with you. It's just going to do something, and that's why they need to have therapy.
Yeah.
And it's not therapy in terms of a therapeutic process. It's more that the intervention is therapeutic.
Yeah.
Like the touch is therapeutic.
Therapeutic, yeah, like it can be, whatever.
Like safe touch, and there is a whole scope of practice with ISMETA about ethics of touch.
Yeah.
Like consent of touch. So there is a whole thing, a very clear scope of practice.
Yeah.
And that's to allow people like learning this, Rolfing and Traeger, and even in BMC there is touch.
Yeah.
So that's how they had to have this therapy in the title of the association.
Yeah. So it was really the new field was created by that, but at the basic was mainly dancing therapists who.
Well, there was a lot of like in movement in general, it was very a lot of dancers were interested in that, or people busy with dancing.
Because they saw how dance is very healing, right? Like how the dance can heal or support people. They really were, because this is maybe how dance therapy started, right? How old is dance therapy? Like when
dance therapy is quite old. It's I think it's most probably like if you look at the dance around the world, the really old, communal dance or ritual dance, or it's like singing, it's like singing and making music and dancing are very, very primary form of expression, and they usually are very cohesive. They bring communities together, they bring transformation, belonging, and many healing practices like rituals and stuff, they involve trance or dance. Like in some culture, you dance to heal or to get rid of bad spirits or whatever, or a disease, or so it's always been there, but it's been more, I think it came a little bit more with contemporary dance, the pioneers of contemporary expressive dance, like starting to express emotions through dance, which was not a form that was there before.
When was it?
It was early in the 20th centuries, like with Isadora Duncan, Loy Fuller, many women, usually not only women, but and also some men were there. And they happened in Germany, in America also, in Switzerland. That's also where Rudolf Laban, started to look at movement. And there was this whole also like Steiner, Rudolf Steiner, anthroposophy. They looked at movement in a different way. Like the whole idea of modernity was connected to enhancing the human condition. Going out of religious beliefs, going out of slavery and poverty, and there were lots of ideas of a new way of living. And those people were educated, of course, to be able to do that. And they really went. Most of the time, they went to the east, to India or to Asia, to see that there was still tradition, body tradition and healing tradition that were more holistic, that were, and that's really opened up many new way of thinking, and so and I think that was the for already like 100 years. At the beginning of the 19th century, there was all these ideas of industrialization, so the body becoming like working at the factory and doing repetitive movement and starting to be efficient with movement, for instance, like finding efficiency to produce more. So there was all kind of new ways of looking at the body, and that was prior to World War II also.
So it's quite old then, right?
It's quite old, yeah, sure. And especially in Germany, there was a huge movement of freeing the body and having a healthy body. And you can see pictures of dancers, dancing in nature, naked, or things like that. There was a lot of re-owning also the sensuality of the body, and a kind of that the value is not only an instrument for working or for slavery or for pleasure or for it's also expressive. It's also in relationship with nature. So there was a lot of new ways of thinking and feeling the body. And of course, that was just like a few people, few communities and few people doing that. It was not like a main thing, but that it started there. And then there was new form of dance, and contemporary dance came out of that. Came out of feeling like, okay, what's different with between contemporary dance and classical dance, for instance, is that contemporary dance acknowledges the weight of the body. So the body has weight, and so there's a lot of things with weight. Weight transfer, shift of weight, and rebounds, and rhythmicity of weight, which in classical dance it's very different. It's everything is about lifting up to the heaven, and transcending the Earth's condition. It's a different, very different approach to gravity, and so in that weight, when you release weight, you have to work with your breath. You have to release your breath.
Yeah.
If you want to release your weight, you have to release your breath. So so that's where many new things started to come up, and also because classical dance was ballet or classical dance was very codified. You have like steps, like in many folkloric dance. Also, you have steps, and you just learn the steps, and you play with the steps, and you play with music.
Yeah.
It's very musical, very playful, very lot of compositions, but it doesn't take into consideration the anatomy of the body at all. It's just like shape and things like
rhythms.
it's a style. It's a style of how you move. In ballet, your legs are open. Like you're with the hips. So it's a lot of. It's not very functional. Let's say you wouldn't. You cannot live as a ballet dancer and walking, with your feet like that. Like that's not really good for your knees or for your hips or for anything. So that's the difference with contemporary dance, is that it started to learn more about the anatomical body, and also a metaphorical body, and so to look at how it functions. So many modern dance and contemporary dance technique are based on some kind of understanding of the mechanic, the biomechanic structure of the body, like breath, like contracting, like the Martha Graham technique is very much about this contraction of the pelvic floor and the belly, and so something that's very centered. There is a center, and then there is the limbs are kind of moving around that, and there's all kind of different. Many people just created different ways of moving according to a different way to use your anatomical mechanic, and lots of somatic movement pioneers were dancers, like Emily Conrad, like Bonnie Banwich Cohen, like so Alexander Matthias Alexander was an actor, a comedian, and he had problem with the voice, and that's how he was a bit early also in Australia. So he was not a dancer, but he was a practitioner and he had to. He wanted to understand why his voice was not working, and that had to do with the neck and the position of the head and all those things. And Feldenkrais was a sport guy. So a lot of those.
So he did. Feldenkrais, he did judo, right? Or he did this
probably something
like martial arts and any other sports he did.
I don't know. I think I don't precisely know his background, but I know he was in sport, and probably like many of these pioneers, they had themselves a problem they wanted to solve, and then they had to find ways to do that. So
it's always like this, like with us also. Like we have got some kind of issues, some symptoms, and we have to get through it. That's how we learn. A bit in deeper way. And did you do Feldenkrais? Have you tried it before?
Yeah.
For sure you did.
That was one of the first thing in somatic movement. The first thing when I studied contemporary dance, but the first thing I did was Alexander technique was, and it's really interesting. And then I did a lot of Feldenkrais. Feldenkrais was my and then BMC.
How you would describe Feldenkrais in your experience? Like, what is Feldenkrais about in 2 minutes? I don't know. I know it's a huge subject. I tried it a few times 15 years ago, but just a few sessions. But if you did it a lot, if you went through it,
so you're repatterning the way you use the different coordination of your body. So your repatterning means like your brain start to find different ways of doing a movement, and so it's and the repatterning happens because you each time you're moving through a Feldenkrais sequence exploration, you are experiencing slightly different ways of doing that, and so the sequence can look like very simple or repetitive, like like slightly moving your like lifting pressing your foot on with bending legs, for instance, and one leg is bent, the other one is lengthened, and then you press one foot, the bent leg, and then it's gonna make a movement in your hip, and then in your spine, in your pelvis, and in your ribs, and maybe to your head. And to do this, and then you're gonna let go. So there is usually you engage some kind of movement, and then you come back to a neutral position. And because you're gonna do this in many different ways, your nervous system will start to learn that just pressing your foot on the floor can move your body in many different ways. Like it can move your hip, move your knee, move your pelvis, move your spine, move your rib cage, move your head, move your shoulders, maybe in many different ways. And it's very refined. It's very, and so it will start to create more possibilities, less restriction around movement pattern.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when we do a repetitive movement, or where we just walk, for instance, the system tends to do it in one way.
Yeah.
It's learning one thing, and then it's kind of keep it. And Feldenkrais is opening that and giving some exercise, some experiential possibilities to experience that movement in many different ways. And that can be very helpful for to function more efficiently. Because sometimes we may do so in Feldenkrais there's a lot of sequencing. You really want to see exactly if you press something in the floor, or if you lengthen something, or if you bend something, what is the sequencing, what is the whole movement that happens in very detailed, almost like in fractal. You want to see it's not just one it's just not one way. There are many things that will shift in order to achieve one movement. You can do a slight change in making a movement, but it will affect the whole structure. But in many parts of the structure, not just the whole structure, many parts of it. And Feldenkrais, I think, helps to clarify that, and to make more room for broader functioning. So that's how I experience it.
And what was the difference? And it sounds applicable for continuum movement also, right?
Yeah.
The repatterning and trying different angles, trying different body parts, like but what would be different? Like liquid body, maybe paying attention to the liquid body.
I mean, in Feldenkrais, they really, they I don't think they talk specifically about fascia. Maybe a bit more now, but it's very biomechanic. It's very much like bones and joint. And pressing, releasing,
releasing,
shifting weight. It's very biomechanic. And so it doesn't involve tone, for instance.
Tone of the muscles.
Tone of the muscle. No. It's so it doesn't. It's not a warm up, for instance. It clarifies the way your nervous system and your brain is going to to memorize movement, but it's not going to engage you into movement. So and Continuum has a pretty different approach to that. It's not particularly interested in biomechanic. It's more interested in the liquid and the fluid that are part of this biomechanic,
Yeah.
and that play a huge role in it.
Mm.
And so the angle is quite different, but it works really well together.
Yeah.
It's very complementary in a way.
Yeah. I think we need to learn certain biomechanics to know how to walk, how to move, in more efficient but also healthy way.
Yeah.
Like there is so much biomechanics in martial arts. Like I think all martial arts like about slight different of biomechanics. Like this guy, this Jesse Eknam from Sweden. He travels Japan and China, and he's trying to find the rules of karate and in China and in the kung fu traditions and wushu and all these Chinese martial arts traditions, and he finds such similarities, and it looks like karate is not coming from Okinawa but more from China.
Yeah.
Or it has very strong roots. And it's so similar, like kung fu and karate, very basic. But when he is trying to find different schools in China, he's kind of desperate. He cannot find his right teacher appropriate because there's a lot of these circus about the martial arts, because there is a lot of jumping, a lot of this and that, but it doesn't feel right. Biomechanically, just theater.
Yeah.
But when he found the right teachers, right, good ones, and this is the style, and they're just talking about this style and that style and blah blah blah, and it is really about one style is about this movement of this bone, and another is just this movement of that bone, and it changes the whole thing, and very like slight differences in transition of the strength, how you transition the strength through the bones, and that's why they are very good massage therapists. This guy, they have got all the schools, like they're working with the bones, like osteopaths, and they work with the pressure points and acupuncture. They're very good with the body because they need to learn. And it's really good. But I see like all the styles and schools, just slight differences between biomechanics. Or do we use a pelvis, or where the pelvis, where the strength or the movement originates? Is it from the pelvis, right? No, from the feet. Some schools says, okay, it's from the pelvis. Some no, it's feet. And it makes big difference, because for me, actually, it's feet, right? I decide in my feet a lot. My toe and muscles in my feet works a lot, and then it takes pelvis, and the pelvis takes another things. But it's a beautiful channel and beautiful conversations. No right, no wrong, but thinking about the origins and about making it clear, so we don't argue so much against. Maybe we can support each other. But it's biomechanics I think it's important, it's good, it's fine. But if we just get only to biomechanics and we don't go to maybe liquid body and another potential of our existence, it will be poor. It will be just very limited. So I agree that I think it's very complementary. It can go together.
Yes, and also I think, like when it comes to biomechanic and anatomy, it always sometimes all those things came out of, like masters or like master practitioners, and we all have a bit of a different cultural body and also anatomical body. Some people are more tall, some people are more short, some people are more thick, some people are more thin, and that's the way you're going to use your leg, your pelvis, and your feet are going to be different when with this just cultural layers, and also just that's your own the own history of your body, and so what I feel that happened in the past, and that what has changed also is biomechanic is like now, before there were very strong beliefs that something is like that, and that's kind of the truth, because the practitioner master said so, and we all train like that, and it was not so much about questioning it, but mastering how to do it. And I think now we come to a place where there is a bit more understanding of the diversity of what can do what, and I know for me that was a huge thing, because when I was learning dance, and I started very late, so I really had to learn the anatomical ways to do it, because my body was not shaped as a dancer specifically, a bit as a gymnast, but not so much as a dancer, and I know that there were several teachers or understanding or views that you have to put your pelvis like that, or you're this, or you're that. And for me, it created way more problems than solutions. So
like alignment, right? Like the
alignment, and just don't do this because this is bad for your back. Don't do this because this is bad for your knee. Don't do this because whatever. And then at the end, your back is fucked and your knees are fucked. So it's I know that for me the biomechanic doesn't make sense if you don't include the fascial network, the tensegrity. It's if you just concentrate on orientation of bones, and I think it's there is really something missing. It has to have some kind of compensation, muscle or tissue compensation, and that's kind of creates some tensions, so I think by now we and Continuum was most probably one of the most, even though it was not it's not very known, but it has really brought to light this fascial and this more this whole structure that's very fluid and very connecting everything, and we cannot. It's very hard to because sometimes the problems happen more there than in the biomechanic. And biomechanic will not do anything about that. You can just start to work with like Feldenkrais with your bones and everything. It's not going to do this.
So I think Tom Myers did good mixture of these things. Like he's talking about biomechanics, but he's talking about fascia. But he mentions also liquid body, but not so much. But he mentions that. He really appreciated the work of Emily Conrad.
Rolfing did a lot. Rolfing was. Ida Rolf was the first person speaking about the fluid body at first. In the West, in the she really was like because she was I think she was probably a physiotherapist and an osteopath, or she was a manual therapist. And she was really mentioning like there is something, but also like the founder of osteopathy, they were like, oh, we can listen to this rhythm and this this and they were, so it was very subtle. That was more the the cerebrospinal fluid and how the cranium and the spine kind of are so important in but
I think Andrew Taylor still, the founder of the osteopathy. I think he lived like 200 years ago or something, 100.
Yes.
And he has this beautiful picture holding the bone and saying that if you understand bones, like the two end of the bones, you kind of understand the it's so hard to understand the bones in a way, because it's kind of it's the mystery. I can remember the quote, but it was thinking of the bones as a mystery. But I think it's Bonnie Genitis. Bonnie Genitis that she's talking about the misconception in osteopathy that they are working with the bones only these years, and Andrew Taylor still, he was saying that start with the bones but don't end with the bones. That they really go to the tissues. And now there is such a discussion in a craniosacral world. You should work with the liquid body, but don't work with the fascia. There is too much manipulation. It's too much ego, and if you do something with the fascia manually, if you just pull it or push it or something, it's too much manipulation, and people are triggered by that. Like, no, you cannot manipulate. But all right, I know what you mean, but if we can use both,
Yeah.
listening and manipulation in the right way, it can be very good. But I like this one, that we really forgot about the tissues. We are working with the bones, and not tissues. And to mix them, it makes it more complex and complicated. But this is what we are, right? We just
Yeah.
we are complicated beings with many layers.
But all this technique and all what we do with manual therapy or just the understanding of the body or even anatomy is very much connected to what we perceive and to what we see. So of course bones, are very easy to perceive and to see because that's what's left when you're dead. Like your bones are there
For a long time.
Yeah, and so and muscles and like muscle are really easy tissues to recognize, and nobody mentioned the fluid system, or because dissection and the way we did anatomy, we understood anatomy, we're on dead body, so there's no fluid anymore on a dead body.
Yeah.
So because nobody saw it, nobody recognized it. And so that so everything we do or we start to practice is very much based on what we see at the moment we see it, and how we understand it, and how we start to work with it. And of course this understanding has changed quite a lot, because now we have all kind of imagery or new machine that's why Emily, for instance, was very interested in this, and she started to work with Valerie Hunt at UCLA to actually really measure electrical field, and all these different when there is a muscle activation, there is a microcurrent happening, and then there is an electromagnetic field coming out. So this was very becoming more scientific. So we start to have a bit more evidence and more understanding that of some kind of sensation or some kind of things that we may experience, but we don't know how to explain, or we don't know how to see it. So sometimes we need to have a machine to help us to so we can actually really perceive and our attention is grasping something.
Yeah.
And with biomechanic, it's the same thing with in science, like Newton science, we are moving out of this paradox very slowly because we are very attached to what's very material and very concrete.
Yeah.
When it comes a little bit more subtle, we need a different perception, and often this perception is linked to an opening of your mind. Like you only see what you already know or what you believe. If you open up to see something that you don't know, your mind and your consciousness has to be able to do that. And that's Emily really was one of these persons that started to see things differently and to try to explain it, sometimes with science, sometimes with esoteric, sometimes with different ways. But if your mind is totally closed to something, you can't see it. You just miss it. All the time. And that Einstein talked about that very, very clearly. He said like intuition and creativity are the main, and mistakes are the most when you discover something, is like you make a mistake, or you have an intuition, or there's something other. Otherwise you're just trying to validate something that you think it's that. And that's one of the big problems with science, and I think in biomechanic, and it's the same thing. Like people start to get trying to prove that your pelvis should be in anteversion or retroversion or whatever, because they need to fix their attention somewhere to solve something, or and that becomes the thing. But it actually is just a consolidation of an idea or a belief and nothing else. So and I think that's why the fluid body or just fluid in general are much. They have a different. The way we need to perceive them is different because it's not that concrete. It's not that, like it doesn't have the same properties. Like the behavior of water is very strange. We don't understand it. In physics, we don't actually really know what water is.
Yeah.
So that's we can really see that the how the period we are living in, the time we live in, is a major context for how we create things. That's why, to come back to Esalen and to the 70s and stuff, like the context was opening up, so many new things could happen because people were not, they wanted to have new things. They knew that there were we reached some limit in understanding, and there were some other things, and that was coming from native culture, coming from Asia, coming from, all kind of things. And they wanted to understand it. And but then, you come to right now we are very much in a period where everything is questions, and everything comes back to a very concrete, and like we don't even know what's right, what's not right, or what's wrong. Like it's a very confusing period. So in one way everything is possible, and in the other way it's very hard to bring a new concept or something, or bringing new concept. It's just another. It's a way to sell something, which is another. So it's the current time. I feel it's not so easy to not in the 70s where there was it wasn't easy, but there was an eagerness. At least in the west coast of America, an eagerness for just opening up.
Yeah. So what do you think is next, like for us in somatic education and therapy? Like there is, what do you think people are interested now? Like, do you see the difference between this field, somatic movement field, in like 10, 20 years ago and now? Like, what is changing? What is evolution in the world? When you travel, you go to US and you go to Asia, you go to Korea, and you go there and there. What is your observation that where are we heading? What was happening?
Well, I think generally, like we are at a time where there is an opening in consciousness.
Yeah.
There is confusion maybe on what we do, and how we talk about it, but in general, there is an opening in consciousness, and we start to really realize that a major problem and a holdback is trauma and history.
Yeah.
And so now there were the huge things about trauma and history, so everybody is traumatized, and we can, feel a bit like sometimes a bit like, questioning that, but actually we are civilized, or human in general, realize now that they are actually traumatized, and their nervous system is traumatized, and that it limits our way to expand our consciousness and to expand our capacities. And Stephen Porges speaks well about that. He says in order to evolve and to create more capacity, we need to feel safe. That's how we evolve best. I mean, that's his contribution with this. So I think somatic movement, understanding the nervous system and just in general the body, from a very not from a religious point of view, not from from a beliefs point of view, but really from what science and practice, like people practicing, like we are practicing, practitioners, who understand, who can experience actually what is a transformation, what it is to shift your nervous system. So when you experience it, then you can understand it, and then you can give a transmission. You can start to teach it eventually.
Yeah.
And so I think what we need to do now is to really bring that knowledge to as much people as possible, because we all have a body, we all are traumatized to a certain extent, and there is a sort also of dissociation. Embodiment was a big word, and it's still a big word, because we, in general, trauma brings dissociation, and we are a culture of war and dissociation. Of separation, and power struggle or something. And when you suffer too much, when you repress your emotion yourself or something, mechanism of dissociation happen, and so we need to move back in our body again. And this, it's not by doing sport or competition or something like that we're going to succeed to do that. It's we need to open different other possibilities, deeper possibilities of understanding what is really embodiment, what is really I have the right to exist, I'm existing already. I consent to my own existence. I fully take responsibility for my own existence. Those things are I think the primary foundation we need to have if we want to move, if we really want to evolve, if we really want to move to a next level. We need to go through that. Otherwise, I don't see how you can evolve if you're scattered in space. If you're dissociated out there. It's you need to go back to a sort of unification of what you feel of yourself, and how you can bring yourself fully here, in the here and now, and in your body, and I think that's the contribution of somatic movement is exactly there. And it's not it's not an esoteric or spirit. It's not a spiritual practice. It's so much more simple. It's very concrete. It doesn't involve. It involves your sensations. Sensations are very real. It doesn't involve like feeling that you belong to the universe. Maybe you belong to the universe, but it matters to you eventually. But we don't want to convince everybody about that. We just want, I think, to create experience where we can really feel this sense of embodiment, of presence, and potential, creativity, and health. Basically, it's also about health.
Health,
breathing, and be able to, all trauma and all dissociation, they impact our way of breathing, our way of moving, our way of expressing our tissues. The immune system. Now we really know that. This fascial network, the tensegrity, is probably very involved on the cellular level in cancer, and so and immunity. So to develop a stronger immune system, we need to go more into this cellular and liquid body and tensegrity consciousness, boldness. Where the flow of information really happened, and it comes back to the same thing. If you have compression, if you have trauma, it creates isolation. It creates a closed system that deteriorates, like cancer deteriorates because it's not communicating with the rest. It's kind of go on its own, and it spreads, and it's you want to have an healthy information moving through the organism that we are, to also fully recognize that we are an organism made of billions of history, billions of evolutionary processes, and that is really the value, and what is the most precious in human being is that it's not so much our spirit, like spirit or mind. This is not physical, but the body is a result of that amazing evolutionary process, and that's what we need to understand. Really, the first thing, the basic thing. And of course it's a mystery, so we won't understand everything, but at least to come back and start to inhabit our body.
So You are talking about embodiment also, and there is this term somatic movement, somatics, and embodiment. Maybe there is confusion. What is embodiment? What is somatic movement? When you say embodiment, what the hell is that for it? Like when somebody, what is this? You know, in Slovak languages, we don't have the equivalent for that so much.
Yeah.
But I like the word embodiment. It sounds very good. But what is it? What is it for you?
Well, I think embodiment comes it's an English word, and it means like being more in touch with being more in the sensation of your body.
In touch with
being
more sensation of
your body, being more in your body. So, and I think that came also with the whole thing with in psychotherapy also with being present.
Yeah.
So if you're present, you're more into your body.
Yeah.
And it came also with the trauma work, like if you're traumatized, you're not going to be present in the room, you kind of somewhere, and it's hard to embody. It's hard to be in your sensations, it's hard to be in the room, and that comes with PTSD, like this is all post-traumatic stress disorder brings disembodiment, brings like, you're not really here, you're not really in your body. And I think that's how embodiment start to be more understood. And of course, every form of physical activity or physical awareness, movement awareness, brings a sense of embodiment.
Sports, you mentioned before.
Yeah.
I move.
Yeah.
I feel my body when I move, and I do running. I feel more. Or if I go to gym, I feel my body more. Is it still embodiment?
Well, I wouldn't say.
This is the tricky part, right? This is a little bit. It could be, but it doesn't have to. It's tricky, right?
I mean, one thing is to feel the activity in your body, and another thing is to feel your presence in your body.
All right, your presence in the body. What does it mean?
Well,
how I can feel my presence in my body. What does it mean?
Well, if you can, very simply, sometimes it comes to, can you feel the sensation of your weight?
Yeah.
Do you feel the weight and sense of gravity, or do you feel that you are somewhere, in space, but not particularly in your body? Like, do you, when you walk on the street, do you feel fully present, or do you feel like part of you are somewhere else, maybe in your thought, in your mind?
I'm running and I'm thinking of Excel sheets and numbers.
So you're not really embodied at that moment.
So I'm running, but thinking of business or thinking of what I should have done in the past.
Yes.
That's the difference.
So you're not really embodied, because embodiment also came with like the whole idea of body mind, mind and body connection. So when your mind is in your body, with your body, and that's kind of an embodiment situation, because you can do. That's why we talked about this. Sometimes in sport there is a lot of dissociation. Like for instance, when it's what you do in very hard competition sport, or in many ways, like. It's so demanding and so physical and so painful that there is something that dissociates from that pain.
Yeah.
And you could say that it's a form of disembodiment as well. It's a kind of abandonment. I'm abandoning that part of myself because it's too painful or it's too hard. But I can do it because eventually I'm taking drugs. Eventually I have a coach that just pushed me. Eventually my mind is so strong. But mind is not the body.
Yeah.
It's not the body. And embodiment implies that your mind is with your body. It's together. It's like it's not a separate thing. It works with it.
Yeah.
And it exists because of it.
Yeah. Mind exists because of the body, right?
Yeah.
Like in Eastern tradition, they don't have a difference between body and mind. It is this body-mind principle that is not. They don't differ. Like. We have got this physiotherapy and psychotherapy thing, and there is nothing between. I think there is this somatic movement initiation, like they're trying to bring something between, right?
Yeah,
A kind of like new field of knowledge. Maybe.
But also when, in the West, like we have a culture of shame in the body, sexual shame, things, being sinful, that the body is a source of, it's an animal kind of, it's a lower, it doesn't have any value.
Yeah.
It stink, it has needs for food and for, pulsion or something. So there is a sense of, there are many layers of shame, and shame doesn't encourage embodiment.
Yeah.
Shame kind of brings you into some sort of dissociation. Like, you're not, you don't want to stay with the feeling of shame, so you dissociate from it, and so you're not anymore there. You're not anymore with your body, and so it comes with shame, but it comes with a lot of beliefs. Like many people feels like their body is a foreign thing. It's a territory that they don't understand, because they are very much in their mind, and they conduct their life from their mind with thinking process, and then the physiology of the body that is pretty raw, and it has like it's very wild, and it's very it's a wild world. Like you can your survival is there, like your and it's fragile in some ways. You have to be careful to not injure yourself, or to and so for some people that tension with the body is very strong, so again they don't really want to associate.
So if we want to talk about body, we should definitely talk about shame, right? It's really also important topic in terms of embodiment, how we shame ourselves, right? Like,
well, especially in our I would say in our culture in the West.
In the West, But it seems like in Japan there is so much shame-based approach in culture, right? Like there is so much shame-based culture. It seems like, for me in Japan, they're very strict. There's a fascist kind of mentality there, right? Like it is very strong. They're very soft and harmonious, and there are huge polarities for me, I think. Like amazing, supportive social beings, but so cruel sometimes on themselves, and very shaming themselves. Like if somebody is different, they smile and laugh, and it's crazy. And when I was there as a white person, and it was really like hard for me. I really felt racism there, and laughing and pointing fingers, and it was really rude. I didn't feel like welcome there, but it was like very childlike energy. It was very childlike energy, like look at him, look at this, and hey, fuck you, like they were like kind of this, like when we were small, and we were like fuck you, and it was just like this kind of thing, and the men were like 25, 35 years old, but it was really like kind of shaming each other and making fun, and which is good in a way. It's natural for us, but I think also like I saw it in Japan, but also in China. Like when I was talking with young people about the education, about the parents, and about the strictness of their parents. You have to really learn, and you have to work, you have to make money, and oh my God, and there is so much shame. Like you have to suppress yourself and shut up and survive. And there's so much suppressed emotion in their body. We are all together in it.
But in our culture, also in Europe and in the West, like there's a lot of shaming also at school, with the young people, with the body, with all the standards for what's beauty, what's the pressure that is created with that is really huge. And sometimes it's right now it's very I think it's very dramatic when you see those kids like just killing themselves at committing suicide at 12, they are 13 or something, and it's like, wow, they've been bullied all the time. I think it's been there before, but
in not such an extent. I mean, like
Yeah, but I think now I think there is a new sensitivity in kids now. You know, like they
Yeah.
are much more sensitive,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
it's,
culture
yeah,
is more
yeah, yeah,
sensitive.
yeah.
So you know it's you can't bear it anymore, and then I don't know, it's traumatic. I think.
I think they're super sensitive, these kids. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe
Coffee.
coffee time. Yeah, yeah, good, nice.